There's something about driving at night that feels different, almost like the world changes when the sun goes down. The roads stretch out, empty and endless, swallowed by darkness. Your headlights carve out a narrow tunnel, but everything beyond that beam is unknown. Maybe you felt it too, the way the rain taps against the windshield, the low hum of the engine, the distant rumble of thunder that makes you grip the wheel just a little tighter. It's easy to believe you're alone out there, but the truth is, you never really know what's waiting in the shadows just beyond your headlights. Tonight, I'm going to share 3 true stories that will make you think twice before ever taking a night drive again. By the end, you'll never look at empty roads the same way. So buckle up, because once you start, there's no turning back. It was supposed to be a routine drive home. I'd stayed late at my friend's house, lost track of time, and by the time I got in my car, the world outside was swallowed by a thick, soupy fog. It's the kind that makes the street lights look like distant, blurry halos and turns every shadow into something sinister. I told myself it was fine. I'd driven this route 100 times before, but that night, everything felt different. The road was empty. Not a single car in sight. My wipers squeaked across the windshield, barely keeping up with the mist. I turned the radio off after a while. The static was making me jumpy. All I could hear was the engine and the soft patter of rain. I tried to focus on the yellow lines, but the fog kept swallowing them up, making it feel like I was driving through a dream. That's when I saw her. She was standing on the shoulder, barely visible in the haze. A girl, maybe in her 20s, wearing a pale dress that looked almost gray in the headlights. She didn't wave or stick out her thumb. She just stood there, staring straight ahead. Her hair plastered to her face by the damp air. My heart hammered in my chest. I slowed down, rolling past her at a crawl, trying to get a better look. For a split second, our eyes met. There was something hollow in her expression, something that made my skin crawl. I kept driving, telling myself I'd imagined it. Maybe it was just a trick of the light, or my mind playing games after a long day. But a mile down the road, I saw her again. Same girl, same dress, standing in the same way as if she'd never moved. This time, I slammed on the brakes. My hands were shaking. I looked in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see her running toward me, but the road behind was empty. I thought about turning around, maybe checking if she needed help, but something deep inside told me not to. I pressed on, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, as the fog seemed to get thicker, pressing in on all sides. Every so often, I'd catch a glimpse of movement in the corner of my eye, a flash of white, a shadow darting between the trees. I kept telling myself it was just the fog, just my imagination, but the feeling of being watched wouldn't go away. Then, just as I was starting to convince myself it was over, I saw her a third time. This time, she was standing in the middle of the road, directly in my path. I slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a stop just feet from where she stood. My headlights illuminated her face, and for a moment, I saw her clearly. Her eyes were wide, almost pleading, but her mouth was twisted in a silent scream. I blinked, and she was gone. I sat there, heart pounding, staring into the empty fog. I don't know how long I waited before I finally forced myself to keep driving. The rest of the way home, I kept checking my mirrors, half expecting to see her sitting in the back seat or running alongside the car. But there was nothing, just the endless, suffocating fog. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I sat in the car for a long time, trying to convince myself it hadn't happened. I can still see her face when I close my eyes. Sometimes when I drive at night, I catch a glimpse of something pale in the corner of my vision, and my heart skips a beat. I don't know who she was or what she wanted. All I know is, I'll never drive that road at night again. And if you ever see someone standing in the fog, staring at you with empty eyes, just keep driving. You'd think the open countryside would be the scariest place to find yourself alone at night. But sometimes, The city can feel just as unsettling, maybe even more so. There's a different kind of fear when you're surrounded by people, yet something still feels off. The next story takes us out of the foggy back roads and into the heart of the city, where the real danger might be hiding in plain sight. I always thought city driving at night was safer than the empty highways. There's comfort in the glow of streetlights, the hum of traffic, the knowledge that you're never really alone. That's probably why I started driving for a rideshare app. Extra cash, and the city never truly sleeps. But after what happened one night last fall, I don't think I'll ever feel safe behind the wheel again. It was a Friday, just after midnight, and the city was buzzing with life. ID just dropped off a group of college kids near the riverfront and was heading toward the next pickup. The streets were slick from a recent rain, neon signs reflecting off the pavement. I remember feeling tired, but not in a bad way, just that pleasant exhaustion that comes from a long shift. I was stopped at a red light, scrolling through my phone for the next ride, when I caught a glimpse of movement in my rearview mirror. At first, I thought it was just someone crossing the street behind me, but when I looked again, there was a man sitting in my back seat. He was older, maybe late 40s, with a gaunt face and deep-set eyes. He didn't say anything, just stared at me through the mirror. My heart jumped into my throat. I hadn't heard the door open, hadn't felt the car shift. I spun around, but the back seat was empty. Just a crumpled fast food bag and my old jacket. I laughed it off, blaming the city lights and my tired eyes. But as I pulled away from the light, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A few blocks later, I saw him again. This time his face was closer, almost pressed against the glass. His eyes locked onto mine in the mirror, unblinking. I gripped the steering wheel, trying to keep my breathing steady. I told myself it was a trick of the light, a reflection, anything but what it looked like. I turned up the radio, hoping the music would drown out my nerves. But every time I glanced in the mirror, he was there. Sometimes in the middle seat, sometimes behind the passenger side, always watching. I started to sweat, my hands slipping on the wheel. I pulled over in front of a busy convenience store, jumped out, and checked the back seat. Nothing. Not a sound, not a sign that anyone had ever been there. I got back in, locked the doors, and tried to convince myself I was just overtired. But as soon as I started driving again, the man reappeared. His face was pale, almost gray, and his mouth moved as if he was trying to say something, but no sound came out. I wanted to scream, to pull over and abandon the car, but I was frozen. The city around me felt different now, colder, emptier, as if everyone else had vanished. I drove aimlessly, hoping the feeling would pass, but the man's eyes never left mine. At one point, I thought I heard him whisper my name, so soft I almost missed it. Finally, I pulled into a well-lit parking lot and forced myself to look back one last time. The seat was empty. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might burst. I sat there for a long time, too scared to move, too scared to look in the mirror again. I never saw the man after that night, but sometimes, when I'm driving alone, I catch a glimpse of something in the rear view. Shadow, a flicker of movement, a pair of eyes watching me from the darkness. I don't know if he was real, or just a product of exhaustion and city paranoia. But now, every time I drive at night, I can't help but wonder who or what might be sitting just out of sight, waiting for me to look back. It's one thing to feel alone on a deserted road, but it's another to realize you're not alone when you're supposed to be safe. That kind of fear lingers, making you question every shadow in your mirror. But if you thought that was terrifying, the next story goes even deeper, into a place where reality itself seems to unravel. After this, you might never look at a night drive the same way again. I've always loved the open road. There's a freedom in it, a sense that you can leave everything behind and just keep moving. That's probably why I became a long-haul trucker. I like the solitude, the hum of the engine, the way the world shrinks down to just you, your rig, at the endless stretch of highway ahead. But there's a side to the road that most people never see. A side that makes you question what's real and what's just a trick of the mind. It started on a run through the Midwest, somewhere between Kansas and Colorado. I'd been driving for hours, chasing the tail end of a storm. The sky was a bruised purple, lightning flickering on the horizon.
Oh, my radio is nothing but static, so I turned it off and let the silence settle in.
The highway was empty. No headlights behind me, no taillights ahead. Just the rhythmic thump of the tires and the occasional flash of lightning illuminating the fields. I checked the clock on the dash. It's at 13 a.m. I should have been tired, but I felt wired, like I'd had too much coffee. The road signs started to blur together. Exit 47, then 48, then 47 again. I frowned, thinking I must have misread it, but then I saw it a third time. Exit 47. Same battered green sign. Same bullet holes in the corner. I slowed down, peering into the darkness. But the exit ramp looked identical every time. I told myself I was just tired, that the monotony was playing tricks on me. But the feeling in my gut told me something was wrong. I tried calling dispatch, but my phone had no signal. It's not even a single bar. I kept driving, hoping I'd hit a town soon, or at least a gas station. But the road just kept stretching out, mile after mile, with nothing but cornfields and the occasional flash of lightning. That's when I saw the car. It was an old sedan, maybe from the 70s, crawling along the shoulder with its hazard lights blinking. I slowed down, debating whether to stop. As I pulled alongside, I saw a woman in the driver's seat, her face pale and drawn, staring straight ahead. She didn't look at me, didn't react when I honked. I rolled down my window, about to call out, but the words caught in my throat. There was something off about her eyes, wide, unblinking, almost glassy. I drove on, heart pounding, glancing in my mirrors. The sedan was gone. It's vanished, as if it had never been there. I tried to shake it off, but the sense of unease only grew. The next time I passed exit 47, I knew for sure I was stuck in some kind of loop. The same sign, the same stretch of road, the same flicker of lightning on the horizon. I started to panic. I tried turning off at the exit, but it just dumped me back onto the same highway, like I'd never left. I watched the odometer, but the miles barely ticked by. My hands were shaking, sweat beading on my forehead despite the cold. I thought about pulling over and waiting for daylight, but something told me that was a bad idea. I kept driving, desperate for any sign of change. Then, out of nowhere, a truck appeared in my rearview mirror. Its headlights were blinding, way too close. I sped up, but it matched my pace, never falling back, never passing. I could see the outline of the driver, a shadowy figure, face hidden in darkness. I tried to lose him weaving between lanes, but the truck stayed glued to my bumper. I could feel the pressure, the sense that if I stopped, something terrible would happen. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life. A voice, distorted and distant, whispered my name. I slammed the dial off, but the voice kept coming, echoing through the cab. I gripped the wheel, knuckles white, and screamed into the night. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it was over. The truck vanished. The radio went silent. The sky began to lighten, a faint pink glow on the horizon. I blinked, and the next sign I saw was different. Exit 49. I let out a shaky laugh, relief flooding through me. But as I pulled into the next truck stop, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. For a split second, I saw someone else staring back at me, a pale woman with wide, unblinking eyes. I spun around, but the lot was empty. I don't know what happened on that stretch of road, or if I ever really escaped. Sometimes when I'm driving late at night, I see that same battered sign, that same flicker of lightning, and I wonder if I'm still out there, trapped in that endless loop. If you ever find yourself on a highway that just won't end, don't trust what you see in the mirrors. And whatever you do, don't stop driving. There's a reason so many of our deepest fears come alive on the road at night. Maybe it's the isolation, the way the world seems to shrink down to just you and the darkness pressing in from all sides. Or maybe it's the simple truth that, no matter how well you know a road by day, everything changes when the sun goes down. The stories I've shared tonight aren't just about ghosts or strange phenomena. They're about that universal feeling of vulnerability, of not knowing what's out there, just beyond the reach of your headlights. If you've ever had a night drive that left you rattled, or if you've seen something you can't explain on a lonely stretch of highway, I want to hear about it. Share your own stories in the comments, because sometimes the scariest tales are the ones that really happened. And the next time you find yourself driving alone at night, remember, the road ahead might look empty, but you never truly know what's waiting in the darkness. Keep your eyes on the road, trust your instincts, and whatever you do, don't look back. Some things are better left unseen.